You're listening to the Travis Makes Money podcast presented by GoHighLevel.com. For a free 30-day trial of the best all-in-one digital marketing software tool on the planet, just go to GoHighLevel.com/Travis. Hey, what's going on, money makers? Welcome back to the Travis Makes Money podcast, where it's our mission to help you make more money. If you're new to the show, we release brand new conversations with unconventional money makers every single day. You might be listening to this on another feed or something like that. So if you haven't yet, be sure to go over to your podcast app of choice right now. Follow the show so you never miss an opportunity to make some more cash. And while you're there, if you want to leave a rating review, we will just be eternally grateful for you, as it really does help us out tremendously. Today on the show, we're going to be talking about how Gen Z can put some more money in their pockets with my new friend, Dan Sheeks. Dan has a passion for helping young people succeed financially. His online community for Gen Z, SheeksFreaks, has produced 2 members with $1 million plus net worth, over 20 members who own real estate, and over 30 members with businesses earning over $2,000 a month in gross revenue. His book, First to a Million, has sold over 10,000 copies and lays out the path for young people to achieve early financial independence. Dan speaks nationwide at schools, conferences, and summits, educating young people about money, investing, and early financial independence. So Dan's going to be perfect for some of the things that we talk about here on the show, and I'm really, really stoked to have him here. Dan, what's up, man? Welcome.
Yeah, I'm great. Glad to be here. Thanks, Travis, for having me.
Well, let's start with a softball question here, Dan. Tell me how you made your first dollar, and tell me how you made your most recent dollar.
All right. First dollar, I'm gonna have to go way back.
Let's do
I
it.
grew up in Iowa. I grew up kind of a farm boy, and it's a really small town. And we started working young. So I think my first unofficial job was detasseling. It's
Detasseling.
detasseling corn in the fields. So farmers would need people to go out in the fields and take off the top tassel of certain corn so that it was fertilized by the more valuable breed of corn, which we
Gotcha.
won't get into that. But it was a labor intensive. You're out there in the summer heat in Iowa, walking up and down fields for 12 hours a day. That was my first
I
dollar, I would
assume you
say.
got paid really, really well to do that.
You did, yeah. For the season is only maybe a month long, 6 weeks, I suppose. But since it is so brutal, it did pay really well. My last dollar, right now, my wife and I have a few different revenue streams, and so the last dollar to come in, I don't even know where that's from, but I still do have a W-2 job. I teach. I've been a high school teacher for 22 years.
Oh, no way.
I currently teach part-time. Um, I moved to part-time about 3 years ago. So I'll just say that, I'm still earning money as a high school business teacher.
Oh, that's awesome, man. That's awesome. Where, what path did you take to get there? So you were always hustling, you were always working, you were always making money, obviously growing up. Did you decide you wanted to be a teacher like high school age, or was this something that you kind of happened into in early adulthood?
It was later in adulthood. I didn't start teaching until I was 29.
Oh, wow. So what were you doing before
Yeah,
that then?
I was doing the opposite of earning money. I was traveling the world, and I don't regret this at all. But I did work, but I would move every 6 months. I would move somewhere new. So I did go to college. I graduated college at 21. I had a business degree, a marketing degree, and then I just started traveling. And there was no plan with that. My first move, I moved from my college town to London, England, and then I just started every 6 months, and I started doing a lot of seasonal work.
That's
I'm
awesome.
a mountain lover. That's why I live in Denver. I love the mountains. So a lot of my locations were based in the Rocky Mountains. And so I would work at a resort or a restaurant that was really open in the summer, and then I would go somewhere for the winter. I spent 2 or 3 winters as a ski bum working at ski resorts. So I was always working,
That's
sometimes two,
cool.
sometimes three jobs. But I was living life until I was about 25, 26. Decided I probably needed to grow some roots somewhere. Colorado was it. Went back to school to get my teaching license at Colorado State University in Fort Collins. And then, yeah, started teaching at age 29. And it was not the plan at all.
Yeah, I was gonna
Uh,
say, why teaching? Why was that where you settled?
you know, um, I had some college friends that were teachers and they seemed to really like their job. And as I traveled, I really matured quite a bit. When I graduated college, I was just like, I want to make as much money as possible. I want to be rich. That's what's going to define my success. As I traveled, I learned that yeah, making money is important, but so is serving others,
Yeah.
doing something that's fulfilling, rewarding. So teaching kind of aligned with that. And then I knew that teachers got their summers off. So even though I was going to be based in Colorado and have a full-time job, I still had the summers to do all my traveling and the stuff that I wanted to do, to get, because I still had that in my soul. I still wanted to explore and travel. So add all that up and I started teaching.
Started being a teacher.
Yeah.
And then how long until you realized that there wasn't enough money in teaching to be able to do the money part of the teaching thing?
It was probably about 7 or 8 years ago. My wife and I really kind of found what the FIRE movement, which I'm sure you've talked about, the financial independence, retire early, and there's a lot of things that fall under that umbrella. Frugality being one of them, but multiple revenue streams being another. And so we dove down the rabbit hole of real estate investing and adding different revenue streams to our lives. And it has worked. In the last, we really didn't start hammering those things until, again, 7, 8 years ago. But as I sit here today, my wife, who was a teacher, is fully retired from teaching. I'm
Wow.
kind of, semi-retired. I teach part-time.
You teach because you
And
enjoy it.
I do. I
Yeah.
love working with young people, and it's super rewarding. And so I do it because I love it. Yeah.
Yeah. Which is what we need more of, honestly. It's the people who want to be teaching because they want to help the younger generation, not because they have to make a paycheck. Which is really cool that you've been able to achieve financial independence outside of even your core revenue, your core like money making stream, which is a perfect segue for the show, because there's a lot of people listening who they have their thing and they like their thing. They're not actively like, man, I hate my job, I got to do something else. But also, man, it would be so nice just to have some extra cash one month. It would be nice to be able to like go to Hawaii and not sweat paying off this credit card bill. Um, when you first started with real estate investing, I mean, doesn't that take a lot of money, Dan? How did you get started in real estate without having a bunch of cash in the bank?
It does take money, but you can be creative with that. There are ways to invest in real estate where you don't have to put a lot of your own money in, but you have to hustle for those deals. But my wife and I, my first real estate purchase was a primary residence. It was a two-bedroom townhouse, and I rented the other bedroom to a buddy of mine.
Okay.
That is now known as house hacking, which is a strategy that's really popular, especially among young people.
Yeah.
Like the members in my community, I think in the intro you said we have over 20 members in my community. They're all young and they own real estate, and almost all of those, 95% of those real estate investors are house hacking, or they're on their second one or their third one.
That's so
So
cool, man.
that's
Yeah.
that's how I started. And I put, actually, this is funny. So this is back in the day when this is pre 2008, when I bought that property, and I put 0% down, and I mortgaged. I had an 80/20 mortgage, so I got in with $0, and
Wow.
I had zero equity, which later it came back to bite me a bit when the market did crash in 2008. Um, but yeah, that's how I got in. No money down.
Yeah, man. It's funny you say that. I think people tend to think, well, that's something that young people can do. But I have a family; it's different for me. And this is good advice maybe for a 23-year-old Dan, but not for me. I do that right now. So we bought this house 2021. So we're really lucky to have a really solid interest rate before they went crazy. And then we were looking at two properties, and one of them had this gorgeous backyard, beautiful pool, little like chipping green, and sand area to chip onto the green and stuff like that. It had a little outdoor movie projector and stuff like that. But it was a little bit out of our budget. Now we could have made it work easily because we made a decision at that time. Like we're not going to buy this house with both of our income. We're just going to use my wife's income to qualify for the loan, and whatever the cap is on her income and what she can get just on her income, that's what we're going to do. And so we could have gotten this house if we just would have been like, all right, you can use my income too. Let's go ahead and get the one that we really want. But the reason we ended up getting this one is that it has a 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom, next gen, like mother-in-law suite. It's basically an apartment. I'm actually recording out of it right now. It's the full living rooms behind me. There's a kitchenette right here. There's a bathroom. There's a bedroom with a door, and then there's a laundry room right there. Has a separate entrance and a third car garage. And we have made a good amount of money just by renting it out to like different family members that were in a pinch. And so it's going to be a legitimate mother-in-law suite soon, because my mom is actually going to be moving in here in about a month or so, to turn into, again, like more income. So it's like, if you are looking at real estate as what it is, which is an investment rather than just a primary residence, then there are ways to make it work. Like and it obviously, like, we're not just going to let some random Joe Schmo stranger, stay over here. Although we did Airbnb it out for a little while and made like 10, 12 grand Airbnb this out for a little bit. But we've probably made, I don't know, like $20,000-$25,000, like from renting this unit out as a part of our house. So it's like we're house hacking ish, but it's like it's completely separate from our house, and we've been able to save a good amount of money on mortgage payments from just having other people stay here. So I love that advice, man. It's so good.
So, and I love this because you're just being creative and finding an additional revenue stream to increase your income. My wife and I do the exact same thing. We rent out our basement.
Nice.
We just had our sixth tenant move in, and she's awesome. We vet them very, very carefully. But she just moved in. She's great. The previous one that just moved out was here for 2 years. She was amazing, and they pay $950 a month to live in our basement,
Yeah.
which we would never use. We'd never go down there. And it's got its own bedroom, bathroom, living area, kind of a quasi kitchen. So that's an extra 10,000 plus a year revenue that we make. That's one of the reasons that I now teach part-time. And because I teach part-time,
Nice.
I get to spend more time with my son. And so, it's not for everyone. You mentioned you have a 5-year-old son. I have a 3-year-old son, right? So we're adults and we have families, but we're renting out part of our house to, yeah, in the beginning, it's a stranger, but again, we vet very, very carefully.
Sure. Sure.
So, do you want the privacy? Then great. Well, if you do that, maybe you have to work full time longer. But if you're willing to be a little uncomfortable, and I wouldn't even say it's that risky. I mean, there's some risk involved, but we're very careful.
Yeah.
I get to work part time. There's a multiple reasons that I only work part time now, but that's one of them. And I get to spend more time with my son because of that.
Yeah.
That's priceless to me. I would rent out
Absolutely.
my bedroom all day, every day, which I do because I that's valuable and that's why we do it. So
You're
I
not gonna
love that
get
you're doing that as well.
Yeah, you're not going to get the time back, man. You know,
No.
that's the big deal. Is that's one of the things I realized being around wealthy people, man, is that wealthy people value time significantly more than they value money. And they realize, like, money is energy. It comes and goes. It flows in. It flows out. And in order for more of it to flow in, you got to be willing to let some of it flow out. You can't make a bunch of money with a closed fist. You got to have an open hand, and that money is going to come and it's going to go, and it's going to. Sometimes you're going to lose money. Sometimes you're going to make money, but time, you're never going to get it back. And
Mhm.
especially if you got young kids, you're never gonna get that
Yeah.
time back, man. Like, I don't know about you, but every time these stupid, I mean, I say stupid, I like them, but I don't like them. The like the photo memories, you know what I mean, that pop up on your
Mhm.
phone,
Mhm.
and it just like reminds you how fast time is moving. It's just because it just shows you like a little photo collage of your kid from like a year ago. It's like, this is
Mhm.
a different kid. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
this was only a year ago, and as adults, we
Yeah.
forget because, like, we look exactly the same as we did a year ago, essentially.
Mhm.
But the kid changes, man. And so if you can spend that time with your kid, yeah, it's 100% worth just like being, like you said, it's just a little bit uncomfortable. That's the only downside. Is
Yeah.
like, yeah, it takes a little bit more work. Yeah, it's a little, like, it would be nice to just like have the house to ourselves. Sure. But also, sometimes you just got to do what you got to do if you have
Mhm.
clarity around the lifestyle that you want to live, which is probably one of the big things that you teach inside of your programs, in the first to a million. So let's move into that a little bit. You're teaching, in your late 20s, early 30s. When did you start realizing, or when did you start really focusing in on the financial piece, and how did that start turning into its own type of business?
Yeah, that started about 8 or 9 years ago. The same time, my wife and I kind of found the real estate investing world and the early financial independence community, and we went down those rabbit holes. So at that point, I started learning. I was very good at personal finance, right? My wife and I were very disciplined financially. We weren't overspending. We were saving. We had our retirement accounts and stuff, but it was at that point that we found the early financial independence community and all of the concepts and strategies that go with that we really started focusing on the strategy and saying, man, maybe we were both full-time teachers at the time. Maybe we can finagle some things and do some things differently now so that we don't both have to teach until, the end of our careers. And so when I started learning these different strategies and concepts, and they're really simple, they're not always easy to implement, but they're simple, like renting out your basement. That's pretty simple. And we started seeing how it was changing our lives. This wasn't the plan, but my wife was teaching full time. After 2 or 3 years, she went to halftime. Then after 2 or 3 years, she fully retired from teaching. And then after 2 more years, I went to halftime, right? So it just kind of evolved over time. We're like, this is working.
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, I need to share this with my students. So I started bringing in guest speakers. I started talking about what we were doing, focusing on real estate investing, frugality, mindset, entrepreneurship, side hustles, house hacking, that kind of stuff. And the students responded very favorably. They're like, this makes a lot of sense. This is something, I don't want to work till I'm 65. That sucks. So
Yeah.
they were paying attention, which eventually evolved into the concept of coming up with a checklist. That eventually evolved into the concept of a workbook. And when I was writing the workbook, it became very clear I was going to have a book before the workbook to explain everything. So that's where, the book is called First to a Million. The workbook is the First to a Million workbook. So I wrote those two books in an effort to not just teach the kids in my class, but Gen Z everywhere could learn these concepts focused on where they're at in their life.
So can we talk through a couple of those steps?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Where do we start? Where do we start, Dan? What's number one?
As far as the pathway to financial independence for a young person?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So step number one, I think, would be self-education. So, whether it's my book or whether it's a YouTube channel or whether it's a podcast or whether it's, Instagram, TikTok, who cares? Just start self-educating yourself around what is personal finance? What are the basic concepts around personal finance, like checking accounts, savings accounts, credit cards, building a credit score, things of that nature. Self-education is huge. So, and that kind of leads into the concept of, well, how do you make a young person want to learn about this stuff? Because if they're going to take an hour of their life and read a book about personal finance versus spend that hour scrolling YouTube videos, that's not the average young person. And so my answer to that is, it's tough. In my classrooms and in my community is a little different because those are all very highly motivated young people.
Yeah, they've kind of
in my
raised their
classroom,
hand and said, "I want to do this." Basically, yeah.
yeah, that's why they're there. But in my classroom, if I teach the class personal finance, which I have taught in the past, they're all kind of they buy in. They understand that managing their personal finances is going to be important. There are some classes high school kids have to take where they're like, I'll never use this. But personal finance is not one of those classes. They
Correct.
know from the get-go, I'm going to pay attention. And if they're like younger freshmen, sophomores are not quite as engaged, but the seniors are like, hey, I want to soak all this up because next year I'm going to be doing this. But to go a step further and have them self-educate beyond what I'm teaching in the classroom, that's kind of tough. So either they're there or they're not, but we can plant seeds and we can motivate and we can incentivize young people. So, a quick tip for a parent out there perhaps is to buy a personal finance book for your kiddos and pay them to read it. $50, $100, whatever it takes. And then when they're done, quiz them, make sure that they actually did read it. And so you're incentivizing them to learn more about how to manage their money. That's step one, is let's get the basics under control around personal finance. And as a parent, there's so many things you can do. If anyone wants to reach out to me, I have tons of free resources for parents about how to raise a money-minded young adult. But that would be step one. You
Yeah.
just have to have the knowledge.
Yeah, man. It's so interesting to me that our education system doesn't focus on this at all. It's kind of a glaring gap where people can. I mean, I feel like that's why 80% of people are living paycheck to paycheck.
Mhm.
70 something percent of American adults don't have $1,000 in their savings account. Like those are crazy numbers. That's an
Yep.
insane under education. And
Or have zero saved for retirement and they're in their
yeah,
40s, 50s, or 60s. That's the scary part is these baby boomers who are, how are they going to make it? How are they going to pay their bills when they cannot work anymore? It's
right.
funny you mentioned this because it is starting to change. Thankfully, the education system in the United States, uh, it wasn't too long ago, only 5 or 6 states required, let's say, a standalone semester long personal finance class for high school graduation. So only, let's say, 6 states required that. Now we're up to 26.
Wow.
The tide is turning. It's starting to come around. And
Good.
I recently, about 10 days ago, the state of Colorado where I live, that's not a requirement, but there's a bill being considered by our state legislator to make that standalone semester long personal finance class at high school graduation. And I recently just testified in front of the House Education Committee here in Colorado for that bill, to pass that bill. And it did pass. Now it's going to go to the Senate Education Committee. So fingers crossed, hopefully in a couple months, Colorado will be number 27
Hmm.
and the trend will continue.
Yeah, I was talking to somebody the other day. They're in their 40s, just saddled with credit card debt, and I just took a second. Was just like, you gotta do the math, man. Like you're making this much income, you have this much debt. Do you know how the APR works? And they did not know how their credit card interest rate worked. That it was like, this is annual percentage rate. This is not, oh, I make a $5,000 purchase and I pay, all credit card interest is insane. 24%. It's not like, oh, I have a $5,000 balance. I pay, 24% of $5,000 one time. And that's factored over 7 years. That's not how it works. That is factored on an annual basis every single year. Like your minimum payment that you're making every month is like 80% interest. Almost none of it's going to the principal balance. You will never pay this debt off if you continue just making these minimum payments at the income rate that you currently have, at like the level that you're attacking this debt. It's not going to go away. It's always going to be there. Like you have to do something different here. Can you tell me even just something like as simple as that? Can you explain what that is for people? Like how does your credit card interest work?
Well, you kind of nailed it. And so, the bigger picture is going back to that step one, self-education. I think everyone needs to know how a credit card works. So, yeah, if you buy something for $100 and the credit card company, you're their customer, but they want to make money off you. That's why they
Correct.
exist.
That's why they
So
have
they're
massive skyscrapers in Manhattan.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah. Um, yeah, so they're going to charge you, let's say, 20% annual percentage rate. So in a year, that's going to be $20. But they strategically make the minimum payment so low that after a year, instead of owing $100, now you owe 90. You've only paid off $10 of the principal. So in year two, you're going to pay 20% over of the $90, and in year three, 20% of the $80. And it does start to, you know,
Diminish.
diminish in your favor as the amortization schedule works itself out. But over the course, yeah, one $100 purchase could take you years to pay off, and I'm going to throw out some numbers. You might end up paying, instead of $100, $700, maybe more on that one purchase. Yes, you spread it out over several years, but is that what you wanted to do? No,
Yeah.
probably not. So yeah, these are the kind of things that the young people need to know before they really jump into a pathway to early financial independence.
What do you teach people about credit cards? Because I know obviously, like if you jump into the Ramsey world, they're like, never use a credit card, get rid of
Mm.
all credit cards, have a zero credit score, don't worry about it at all. What do you teach people about credit cards?
So it's funny. My life really exists in two worlds. I have my teacher world, and I teach. If I teach personal finance in my classroom, that is very separate than my online community, my SheeksFreaks world, my first 2 million book world. because those are very different types of people. So in my classroom, when I teach about credit cards, I say they are very important tools because they can help you build credit, and that's extremely important in your life. So you should have a credit card, but to use it responsibly, it's very simple. You pay off the full balance on time every month, and you don't spend more than what you can pay off, and you don't buy things that you wouldn't buy with cash, right?
Yeah. Treat it like
That's
cash.
that's yes, that is the responsible way to use a credit card. Is that easy all the time? No, because they can be, people like to spend money. I like to spend money. It's fun. But that's what I focus on, is how do you use a credit card responsibly? In my community, which is the other world I live in, where these young people are, they know that, like they have that down. In my book, which is for the highly motivated young person, I tell them a different story. I say, when you turn 18, the day you turn 18, roll out of bed, go to your laptop, apply for your first credit card. When you turn 19, get your second one. When you turn 19 and a half, get your third one, and use each credit card every month. And I don't care if you charge $5 a month, but maybe one's for gas, one is for eating out, you go to lunch a couple times a week, and one is for everything else. So hopefully there's not a lot of money being charged on those, but you're making on-time payments 3 times a month, and that's building up your credit history, which builds up your credit score, which changes everything for you. And my community members are disciplined enough around, they know what a credit card is and the dangers and how to use it responsibly. So if you understand how to use it responsibly and you're disciplined enough to do that, then let's use that tool not only to build credit, but to do things like travel hack and use lots of points to go on free trips and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I was just it's funny because I was just at Ramsey HQ. I had a few of those guys on, and I like them a lot. And frankly, a lot of their education is really great for the majority of people who have never learned any sort of financial discipline. But the credit card one is the one I can't get on board for, man. I just got back this like 2 days ago from a week long trip traveling for some business stuff. And before I left for that trip, I had pulled out a couple credit cards, and it was for big purchases that I knew I was going to have to make in my business anyway. And so I was like, oh, let's pull out a couple of these ones that have good welcome bonuses on there, And the whole trip, I think I was gone for a week. I think I paid for one hotel out of pocket. The rest of it was completely covered by points. And the on the last one, because it was a airline specific card, got a free. So my hotel in Miami got upgraded to like a corner suite with a beautiful view of the Miami skyline and the beach. That was a free upgrade on a purchase that was already made from points alone. So like I made the purchase from points and then got upgraded because of the status that I had with that hotel chain. And then on the flight back, got upgraded to first class and then get like free airport lounge access. And it's like, so I get free food and drinks in the airport. And then I get free food and drinks on the flight back home. Obviously much more comfortable to be in first class than it is to be in economy. And all of that was done for free. And it was like, all of that was done from purchases that I was going to have to make regardless. It's just that I made them on this card instead of using my debit card. And then as soon as the balance hit my account, I paid it off in full with the cash in my account. And it's like, I can't just like turn a blind eye to all of those benefits and all those perks and all that free stuff that I get, just to potentially avoid some debt. The point is that you have to treat it like cash. And it bums me out when I go to check out on all these different, online shopping carts anymore, where almost everything, man, has the ability to finance it now. It's like you can buy this $340 item, in full, or we can finance it for you at whatever percent interest for 14 months at $34 a month. And I'm just like, oh my goodness, how many people are taking that option? If you
Yeah.
have to take that option, you can't afford it. Leave
Yeah.
now. Exit the page. This is not an option. Do not
Yeah.
take people up on this. This is a bad idea.
I agree. And those are the people that need Dave Ramsey's curriculum. And it is good for 80% of the people, but the other people who do understand money, who have self-educated, my wife and I tomorrow morning are going to San Diego for spring break with our 3-year-old. Our plane ride is free, our lodging is free, and our car rental is free because of credit card points.
Yep.
I mean, it's kind of like if you're not utilizing credit card points, you're kind of throwing money down the drain.
Yep. Yep.
but it's only for those people who do understand how to use them responsibly.
Yeah, again, there's a reason they have skyscrapers in Manhattan. You know what I mean? Like it's because the majority of people aren't using it like that. The majority of people are not getting over. It's like the people who go to the casino and think that they're getting over on the casino. You know what I mean? It's like again, there's a reason why they have multi-billion-dollar buildings
Yeah.
lining the Las Vegas Strip. It's because 90% of people go there and lose money. So, you know what I mean? You're probably not going to be that small percentage of people that are going to be able to figure it out. But in the credit card world, it's a little bit different than gambling because it just comes down to a matter of being extremely disciplined in your finances. But if you can be disciplined, then these are tools that can really help you. Like I said, like have access to things that you wouldn't even be able to have access to. It's like I didn't pay for that first class flight. I bought the flight on points and got upgraded for free because they saw my status with the airline. But the only reason I had status with the airline is because I had the card that the airline gave me. It wasn't because I had a ton of miles with that particular airline. It's just because that I had the card and it immediately gave me this particular status and there was an upgrade available and they gave me the upgrade for free. It's like, well, okay, great. I'm taking that. You know what I mean? Like that was a
And
much better experience.
yeah, and the free food from the lot, what do you call them?
The lounge. Yeah.
The lounges. Yeah. Now
Yep.
that's huge,
Yep.
especially with the way prices are nowadays. You can save for with a family of three, you can save easily $100 to and from your
Oh
trip
yeah.
just by stopping for a free meal.
Especially with how expensive everything is in the airport, bro. I bought I got this like little airplane toy for my son. You know, I always bring stuff back for my kids. I had got something for my daughter at the one of the previous places. So at this airport, I got something for my son, and I got a Monster energy drink, and I got a book. Those three items. Guess how much that cost me at the airport?
Drink, book, and a toy. Yeah, $30.
$54.
Wow.
$54. I was like, oh, like what, even when I was checking out, like I like looked at the price. I was like, this is insane. This is
Yeah.
ridiculous, you know?
Yeah.
But that's the point is like the food, drinks, everything at the airport is way more expensive. But free lounge access gets me a good meal because they actually have good food in those places,
Mm-hmm.
a couple drinks for free. That probably saved me $75, $80. You know what I mean? Just from having the free access. And then again, I got a free meal and drinks on the flight because I got upgraded to first class. Like, I don't know, man. Like, I think that was overall like a net positive for me, you know,
Yeah.
just to put the same exact purchase I was going to make on a credit card instead of on a debit card. It's just, you got to be able to look at the credit card like it's cash. The problem is that people get like these credit lines and they look at that as their emergency fund. They look at that as if it's cash. And it's like the credit line is not cash. It's cash is cash. And if
Mm-hmm.
your credit line exceeds the cash that you have, you cannot use the full amount of the credit line. And you can
Yeah.
even ask the bank to make it smaller. If you feel like you are tempted to use the whole thing, then just ask them to decrease the balance. They'll do it. You know what I mean? Just say like, hey, I don't want this to be a $20,000 limit on this card. Can you bring it down to $5,000? And they'll make the limit $5,000, and they'll
Mm-hmm.
offer you a bunch of ways to increase that credit line. You know what I mean? Because they want you to keep spending more money on those cards, but you just got to be able to say no and make the smarter financial decision. So Dan, this has been awesome, man. I know we have a couple minutes left here. Where do you recommend people, like when you're talking to these young kids, where do you recommend that they start when it comes to making more money? I noticed you said you had a student with a couple of students with $1 million net worth, 20 members who own real estate, 30 with businesses over 2K a month. I want to focus on that 2K a month thing. Where are these kids starting these businesses to start making some cash like this?
There are hundreds and hundreds of, side hustles, or small businesses young people can start. In my community, there's everything from dog walking to lawn care to Christmas light installation to website design, um, SEO for different companies. Optimizing their their Google ads. It just depends on the young person themselves. What do you enjoy? What are you interested in? What skill sets do you have at this point in your life? Even just posting some services. A member just decided she has a podcast. She was making a podcast, but she's decided to step away from that. But she enjoys the editing of podcasts. I said, put that on Upwork
Yep.
or put that service out there. If you want to make money that way, I guarantee there's some people out there who don't want to do that, and they'll pay you some money to edit their podcast for them. You start small, and then when you get some testimonials and some ratings and some clients, you can kind of start to charge more. So literally, I tell young people in my class, in my community, sit down, Google great side hustles for college student, great side hustles for teenager, and you will find hundreds of examples. Pick the one that really jumps out at you, that sounds fun, that's interesting, and go with it. I mean, it could be as
Yeah.
simple as Uber Eats driver, or it could be, doing tours in your neighborhood,
Yeah.
picking up garbage. There's hundreds. Find one. That's the tough part. You have to narrow it down to one idea
Yeah.
and then start taking action.
Yeah. The cool thing too about AI these days, man, is like if you're just I don't know what I'm interested in, I don't know what I want to do, sit down with ChatGPT and just say like, hey, coach me in a new business. Here's what I like to do. Here's how old I am. Here's where I live. What would be some ideas for me to start making some money? And like it will ask you questions. Like if you tell it to treat you like it's your business coach, then it will start to like phrase things a certain way, ask you certain questions, and you can start going through that ikigai thing, right? Like how what am I passionate about? What am I good at? What will people pay for? And find the intersection of those things type thing. And it will help you figure some of these things out. And especially if you're a young person, leveraging technology is something that people that are older than you will generally trust you for because you're a young person, and use those things to your advantage. Like there's a lot of cons economically being a young person. There's a lot of things that are going against young people economically. However, there are some things that are strategic advantages, and understanding technology, like being fluent in technology, is something that somebody in their 50s, would really, really highly value, and is looking for somebody to come in and help them figure out how to manage their social accounts, or how to leverage AI to have better efficiencies in their business or something like that. Like look at the strengths that you have, focus on the pros and not the cons, and just start offering some services, man. People will pay to shortcut their time.
I love that idea of using AI to narrow down your. So I'm going to use that. I haven't thought of that one. I mean,
Yeah.
my members are using AI all the time, but I don't know that we've used it to narrow in and focus on a potential side hustle. I love that. That's a good
Yeah.
one.
Dan, this amazing conversation, man. First to a Million is your book. Where can people go to get a copy of that?
Amazon, or the publisher is Bigger Pockets, either one.
Great, great. First to a Million. Go check out the book. If you're a parent, highly recommend getting this book, giving it to your teenager. And like Dan said, if they're a teenager like I was, which was somebody who never read a book and never wanted to read a book, I had to learn the hard way that self education was really important. Now I read a lot, but when I was younger, I didn't couldn't piece it together, but paying them to do it will somehow incentivize them a little bit more than anything else will, and then get the information in their hands somehow is my point, and incentivize them properly to go through these things, because that $20 investment you're going to pay them, the $20 for the book plus the $100 you're going to pay your kid, it will pay dividends later on down the road. So Dan, thanks so much for doing this. Where can everybody get some more information from you besides the book?
You can find me on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, or my email is dan@sheeksfreaks.com.
Perfect. Dan, thanks for doing this. Everybody else listening, tuning in, remember, money will only solve your money problems, but it's a little bit easier to solve the rest of your problems if you got some money in the bank. So let's solve that problem first here on the Travis Makes Money podcast. Thanks for tuning in. Catch you next time. Peace out.